IKEA Foundation and Rockefeller Foundation have joined hands to set up a $1 billion platform to fight climate change and energy poverty. The platform aims to cut 1 billion tons of carbon emissions and empower 1 billion people with distributed renewable energy. To discuss this, we have Per Heggenes, who is the CEO of IKEA Foundation, and Dr. Rajiv Shah, who is the president of the Rockefeller Foundation. Gentlemen, thank you so much for joining us on CNBC TV 18 to discuss something which is very topical and needs our urgent attention. Mr. Shah, let me come across to you first. Give us more details about this platform. What will be Rockefeller's contribution to this? What are the initial goalposts that you plan to achieve? And which are the geographies or the countries that you're focusing on?
Well, thank you so much for having me, and thanks for spending time on the critical topic of energy poverty and our climate future. The reality is COVID-19, which continues to have such dramatic effects in India, has pushed perhaps 125 million people back into extreme poverty and maybe 500 million people back under an expanded definition of the poverty line on a global basis. So this is a global response. This is a $1 billion collaboration between the IKEA Foundation and the Rockefeller Foundation. It is a commitment, first and foremost, to help people have the ability to move themselves out of poverty by accessing renewable energy. And it'll make a tremendous difference in terms of serving as an alternative to either coal-based power or diesel-based power for those who otherwise are not able to have jobs or have income or read at night in their homes because of a lack of electricity. We're very excited about this effort. It actually started many years ago in India, in the state of Bihar, where we have helped already serve 500,000 Indians who otherwise would not have access to electricity with low-cost, renewable, always-on power. And we've seen how it's changed their lives. And we now hope to bring this effort to the world.
All right, that is good to know. Mr. Heggenes, let me take this question ahead. Mr. Shah did speak about how you've already done a part of it in India. Which are the other countries or geographies that you've collaborated with it? What will be IKEA Foundation's contribution to the overall initiative that you've undertaken?
Well, Sonal, thanks for having us, and I'm very excited to be here with Raj to announce this commitment, which we hope can really make a huge change to millions of people, or 1 billion people living in vulnerable communities. And that's exactly what we do at the IKEA Foundation. We try to work to improve the lives of children and young families living in vulnerable communities. And we believe that the two largest threats to children's future are climate change and poverty. So investing in access to renewable energy for these families will not only help improve livelihood opportunities and increase family incomes, but also help reduce and avert greenhouse gas emissions. So we've been working in this space for quite a few years as IKEA Foundation. It makes up about 75% of our commitments worldwide, in India, in other Southeast Asian countries, and Sub-Saharan Africa and Jordan. And that's where we will continue also in the collaboration with Rockefeller to see how we can take this billion and leverage to a significant level by getting governments, international financial institutions and private sector to join us in this effort to bring access to clean renewable energy to as many people as possible living in difficult and vulnerable communities today.
Okay, that is good to know. So, Mr. Shah, my next question is to you. I asked you about the initial goalposts or the initial targets that you have put in place. Tell us more about that. What kind of progress do you see in 2021 itself? And what about 2022? There will be some challenges that you must have thought of that will come in your way. Tell us more about that.
Well, the biggest challenges are bringing all of our partners together to act with one voice and in concert together. So as Per just mentioned, Rockefeller and IKEA are each committed to put in $1 billion of philanthropic capital in total. In addition to that, we're collaborating with governments. The Indian government, for example, in India has been an important partner. We collaborate with other financial institutions. And frankly, we need private investors, including commercial banks and others, to come together and finance the types of projects that can allow people who don't currently have electricity to have electricity, and to ensure that that electricity is renewable so that it can replace diesel and coal. And this is what it will take to protect our planet for the future. One of our big milestones then for this year is bringing that collaboration together, perhaps at Glasgow at the COP26 meeting later this year. We also have on-the-ground results milestones. For example, in India, we're reaching 500,000 people. Over the course of 10 years, we hope to reach 1 billion people to help them move themselves out of poverty by accessing electricity. And so this effort is rapidly expanding in India, in Africa, and Latin America, and so many other geographies, as Per mentioned, and we're excited about that as well.
Oh, absolutely. This is something that we all are watching out for. But Mr. Heggenes, let me come across to you. I wanted to understand that there is a mention on the in the press release as well that there is a lot of funding that has increased at global level as far as fighting against climate change is concerned. However, many organizations struggle to identify viable and investment-ready projects. What is your take? How do we address this problem, because it is at a global level?
Well, I think that's exactly the problem we try to address in our joint partnership here, to be the mediator between the international financing institutions, governments, private sector, and the organizations on the ground who can actually turn strategy and money into energy access for the poor. And we can play a role in this and bringing the solutions to the organizations that are willing to invest it, and in some cases also act as a mediator that can de-risk some of these investments in order to accelerate the development of access to renewable energy.
Okay. Mr. Shah, you did speak about your ground level example of what happened in Bihar. Can you give us more such examples as to what you're trying to do on the ground level, something in other geographies or other countries?
Sure. Well, as I mentioned, in Bihar, I had a chance to visit before COVID-19 and to see how specific families were able to plug in for the first time. They were able to create jobs for themselves or their neighbors or in their community. They were able to increase their incomes dramatically, and then able to send their kids, to school with uniforms and with supplies. That's the pathway we want to pursue elsewhere. So we're investing in these types of projects in East Africa, for example, and you see very much the same thing. We know that in Nigeria, where we're expanding access to power through renewable power to communities that haven't previously had reliable energy, they're able to create small businesses, and they're able to have the knowledge that, okay, that electricity is not going to cut out at 3 o'clock or 4 o'clock or 5 p.m. And so the business can run into the evening, and therefore we can employ other employees and pay them. That's why in our global work so far, we see that small businesses in particular and small enterprises are the single greatest beneficiary of this approach. The power that's produced through renewable sources is roughly half the cost of diesel-generated power, whether you're in Bihar or you're in Nigeria. And the reality is we should not be powering businesses around the world with diesel and coal when we can do it more effectively and more efficiently, and frankly, in a more distributed way with solar and other sources of low-cost renewable energy that are now possible thanks to the technology. Those are the kinds of examples we're going to start seeing all over the planet as this platform and this collaboration grows to include many, many other partners. And we're very excited about that.
All right. So last question to both of you before we let you go. Mr. Heggenes, let me come across to you then. First, tell me what is the amount that IKEA Foundation is putting in this initiative? And second, we are in a different era right now. It's after 2 years, it will be the post-pandemic era where a lot of the global resources will be used in fighting the pandemic. Do you think fighting climate change will become more difficult right now because most of the resources must have been used for COVID? How do you think the recovery will look like?
Well, I'm quite optimistic about this because, from a foundation point of view, we will probably invest around 300 million every year in direct climate initiatives that will help us actually fight emissions and greenhouse gas emissions and make sure that the planet is also livable for people in the future. The world has 9 years left to cut greenhouse gas emissions in half. Unfortunately, we're not on track to do that. But if we don't succeed in doing this and we don't succeed in getting to net zero by 2050, the future doesn't look very bright for our children and grandchildren. But I'm optimistic because I think there's so much attention around this. People see the impact on climate change everywhere. We see a lot of movement in companies, in countries. We see a lot of movement on the ground, people mobilizing. We see investments being moved to green investments in green energy and investments without fossil fuel involved. So I am very optimistic about this, and I think we can make a huge difference by getting together and creating a platform like this that can also be leveraged by really radical collaboration among different partners.
Okay. All right, Mr. Heggenes and Mr. Shah, thank you so much for joining us today and discussing this very important topic, and we need to continue speaking about it so that the net zero emission target that we have set, we continue to achieve that. Thank you so much for joining us. Take care.
Thank you.
Thank you for having us.